Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we are going to do a crane sketch in an elegant writer pen and then add a watercolor wash to it. And I'm doing this for Inktober. Every year I've been meaning to give that a try, just doing a quick ink sketch every day for the month of October. And this year I want to make it happen. So let me know if you'd like me to share these mini tutorials with you in the comments below. So I'm using an elegant writer pen, and this is an ink pen that is kind of cool. It's a calligraphy pen, but when you add water to it, you just get a really cool effect, and you'll see that in a few minutes. So basically I'm just doing like an oval for the head, an oval for the body, connecting it with like an S shape for the neck, putting in a beak, and just kind of adding some gestural lines. Oh, speaking of birds, I want to let you know today is the last day to get my brand new watercolor class, Texture Toolbox Feathers and Fowl, for 50% off. Say that 5 times fast. And I will put links to that and the coupon code in the video description, so you can snag that up today on October 1st. It's the last day of the launch month special, because I wanted to end the sale on a Sunday, not a Saturday. I don't know why. That was just what I decided to do back when I put the sale up. So I'm just putting the legs down, and I will link to a reference photo for this so that you can have that to look at if you want to sketch along. It might make a little more sense. I'm just sketching in some little kind of ripples of water around the feet, and because you know, heron, they're a water bird. Actually, the last time I went to the beach, a heron landed. It was like fishing. It was like 20 feet from me. It was crazy. It was so neat to see that bird in person. They're a lot bigger than you think. So now I'm just kind of refining my sketch and darkening up some lines that I think are important and that I want to make sure stay. And I thought I wanted to give this guy a little bit of kind of a setting. So I want to throw some leaves in and maybe some reeds, just stuff to make it feel like it is, you know, just not floating off into space. It's actually somewhere. So I decided to keep this tutorial real time. I haven't sped anything up here. This is how fast I typically sketch when I'm just kind of sketching for fun, not worrying about extra lines or anything. And that's kind of what these Inktober sketches are going to be, I think. I think I'm going to keep them as just like quick 5 or 10 minute loose sketches. So let me know if that's something you're interested in. I'd probably just post them in addition to my regular, you know, 4 tutorials a week, just as kind of a little extra added value for anyone who finds just if I have a hard time making time for that daily creativity. I think it's so important. I'm working in a mixed media journal. This is my small Jane Davenport journal. And I find it's really, really good for this because I'm not too worried about wasting the paper because it wasn't too terribly expensive, and it just performs pretty well. So the neat thing with the Elegant Writer is that when you add water to it, like I am with this water brush, the colors in the black ink separate to kind of like a minty green and a pink, which is odd once you like water them down. So you just get kind of an interesting effect that way. And you can get these Elegant Writer pens at any craft supply store. You can get them on Amazon, any art store online pretty much that sells calligraphy supplies. I would recommend getting just like a bullet tip one. The ones that I have actually came in my Smart Art box, and they were all calligraphy tips, which is fine. I sketched with them, but I think the bullet tip one is a little bit better. When you're doing this technique, I will warn you, you will go through them, but they're not very expensive. They're a few dollars each. So just know that, you know, you will wear the tips down and you will run out of ink if you're sketching like this, because it's intended for calligraphy where you're not going to be, you know, using that much ink. So just be aware of that. Consider that before you purchase it, that it will kind of run down a little quicker. And so I'm using this ink as shading, so I'm adding more water and dragging out the ink more when I want just a little bit of shade, or I'm even picking up ink from darker areas like the cattails that I sketched in, or the legs. That way I can just pull in a little bit, because the bird's white. So I didn't want to get the bird, you know, too dark. And I do go over painting white birds in depth in my watercolor course, but this is just a very quick sketch, just to kind of show you that process, I guess, and hope you try it along with me. So now I'm thinking if I want to just do the ink and wash, or if I want to add color to it. I think that's personal preference. I think it looks just fine as ink and wash, but because the bird is white and I have so much white in the background, I do decide to go ahead and add some watercolor in a moment. If you're a beginner though, like you've never done this before, why don't you just stick to the pen and the water for now and see what you can do with that. There's no point in throwing in more media if you're not really comfortable with the first thing that you're using. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with it, but it definitely, I think you can learn more if you stick to one media to begin with and then you branch on from that. I decided to grab a different paint that I normally use, and this is the Mission Silver class, which is their student line of watercolors, which are actually really good, and you get more in a palette of those colors than you do the Mission Gold, so it's a little bit more economical. They are a little pricey as far as student grade paint goes, but the quality is probably one of the best student grade quality paints that I've tried. The only place I've seen them for sale is Amazon. I will put a link that is an affiliate link just so that you know, but honestly, in an art journal, you can use whatever you want because it's a journal. You're going to have it closed and you don't have to worry about fading if you're not having it hung up in direct sunlight. So if all you have is Crayolas or prangs are actually really good too, use those. It doesn't really matter because it's not going to be in a situation where it's going to fade. I have no idea the light fastness of the Elegant Writer pen. I assume it's probably not that great because it must be like a dye-based color, how it's how it kind of like separates like that when it could be pigment, I don't know, but when I'm not sure, work in a journal, you don't have to worry about the fading so much. So I'm starting off with my lighter colors. I've used some yellow ochre and I've used some sap green, and now I'm grabbing some Prussian blue. I like these sets of colors. I'll also be adding burnt sienna. I feel like these colors together just give you a beautiful and analogous. I have to like work myself up to that word. Because I always mispronounce it if I'm just like, going through a sentence, but analogous color scheme, I probably even said it wrong there, but that basically means stuff that are fairly close to each other on the color wheel. It gives you a beautiful, not monochrome, but definitely, color friends are next to each other on the color wheel. So for my darkest values, I am using the Prussian blue. I can add a little bit of burnt sienna in there to darken it. I'm not going to get that really neutral gray that you get if I had used ultramarine, but I felt like the Prussian blue had a better character of color for this particular piece. So I am using water brushes. You can use a regular just wet paintbrush if you want, but I wanted to keep this kind of simple, and so I'm using my water brushes. You can see the rich, almost like earthy green you get with the Prussian blue plus the burnt sienna. It definitely pulls the green biases from those colors and gives you that really rich, like kind of muddy blue-green color, which I think is really nice for this. Basically, I want to make sure my values are good and in proportion with what my reference photo shows me. I don't know, I'm talking so fast. This is like my normal, I didn't speed the video up, but I guess I felt pretty like I was painting pretty fast, so I guess that's why I'm talking fast. I don't know. But yeah, I like to mix from like a limited palette like that, and I just feel like it gives me a nice harmonious earthy feeling, and I'm able to capture that the same kind of natural look that the heron is in. And since the bird is white, I want to make sure that the background's a little darker so he stands out, or she, I'm not sure. And I'm just going to keep on adding until I feel like I have enough color, and that could be different for everybody. If you feel like you want to layer, it's a good idea to dry your painting or give it a little chance to dry before you go in and add more layers. I'm doing the burnt sienna on its own on the cattails, and there weren't cattails in my reference photo, but you often see these birds in ponds where there are cattails, and I thought it added an interesting setting, interesting element to the setting that I liked, so I just went. This is one of those kind of gut feeling sketches where you just kind of don't worry about it and you go for it, and that's really what I want to do for my Inktober sketches, is just kind of have fun and just go with the flow and paint as the mood strikes. So I have dried my paper there, and you can see that anytime you use watercolors, if it's really wet, you do get that shift to a little bit lighter. And now I'm just going to go in and add some extra layers, deepen colors where I think it needs it, and that's pretty much going to be it for this sketch. Like I said, this is a very quick drawing sketch, but you can be quick and accurate. You don't have to be super detailed. It's more important to be accurate. And I had a student in my new text toolbox class, the Feathers and Fowl one, saying that she wished it was more drawing, because I did do a drawing demo for one of the birds, and she's like, oh, I wish it was more drawing. So I thought, well, why don't I just put these Inktober's up, and then it'll be a little bit of like quick drawing until I get a chance to get my drawing course filmed, which is on my to-do list. So I'm here going in, I'm darkening some areas that was just a really watery mix of the burnt sienna, a little Prussian blue just to tone it down a little bit. And now I'm going in with pretty much the burnt sienna on its own, just adding a little more depth of color on the cattails. It's just pretty subtle stuff here honestly, where you've got the black ink in behind from the Elegant Writer, you're almost just like tinting a photograph. So not a lot of painting technique in this, more just line and wash. You're just kind of almost coloring booking it in. You're filling in the spaces. You're accenting all the work you did with a pen. That's where the real work came in on this project. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see my daily Inktober sketches, just let me know in the comments below. Again, they would be in addition to, not in place of, my normal 4 videos a week that I do every week anyway. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy crafting!